Hi, my name is Jessica, and I'm here with SnapOne Media, and I'm here to interview the lovely
Daphina, Carnegie-Williams.
I just want to ask you a couple questions about, your life and your career. What was your inspiration by, starting you into your career?
My inspiration was, I guess it goes back to my daddy says, when I was 2 years old, he used to work for a firm, a funeral home locally in our hometown, and he used to take me in the prep room and set me on a little stool. So I assume when I graduated from high school, I was motivated and encouraged to, I was always inquiring minds want to know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So my thing was, what happens after death?
Right.
After someone passes, what's the transition from death to burial? So with that being said, I was inspired to go to school for mortuary services, and along the way watching my dad interact with the local funeral home in our hometown. So that's how I ended up going to mortuary school.
So how could you describe your experience as a student in mortuary? Because we all know that's not like the typical job. You have to have a passion for it. So what can you tell me about your passion for the mortuary field, and as far as like what type of passion do you have for that type of service?
I do have a passion for it. I take it very seriously as well. And when I started, unfortunately, it was predominantly male, in the field. So I had a couple hurdles to cross as far as being, fresh out of school, licensed funeral director. And I would get this all the time. Me and my dad would go on a service, and they'll say, hi, greet my dad as the funeral director. And it was a job well done, and he always would have to say, I'm not the funeral director, my daughter is, so everybody, they'll look and they'll be like, oh, okay, with the field predominantly being male. So that was always a challenge for me when I was first starting out. But and it's still a challenge a little bit, because people are not used to a woman being in charge and being a funeral director. So with that being said, my passion became a lot more stronger, and just because it was a couple struggles, as far as being a woman, I always wanted to go over and beyond. I didn't want to. A lot of the females that get into the funeral service industry, they always are behind the desk.
So they're overshadowed by the men.
Yes. I didn't want that to be so. I wanted to learn everything. I used to wash cars when I first started, embalming and preparing the bodies, of course, seeing families. So I'm all around, so and I enjoy it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's a time when families are, at their lowest point, and you have to know how to be compassionate all at the same time, as far as being, knowing that you're providing a service. And my son, it's so funny, is that you're in the funeral industry, of course you're being compassionate,
right? And
then when you go home, you kind of unwind, and you got to be the mom,
right? So
my son, he would always say he'll be getting into some trouble or whatever, and then I'll be carrying on in high tone voice, and I might get a call, on my funeral home line, and then I answer, this is Daphina Williams, how may I help you or whatever, and he'll be like, once I hang up the phone, he'll be like, how can you change from that tone to this tone? And it always was like an insider for our home. But it's been a struggle. It's kind of challenging as far as being a female in the first starting, but again, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So being that you're a woman with so many different hats, you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur, you're just a boss in general, how do you balance? Not only, are you a mother, you're a wife as well. So how do you balance everything in your everyday life?
How do I balance it all? At first, with the different careers, different accolades, and different things in life that I was accomplishing, you find yourself learning how to balance it all. learning how to shift from being, working, meeting families. Then you have to shift to being a mother, and then you have to shift another gear into being the wife. But now that I've been in funeral service for 25 years now, so I think I've accomplished a little, and the know-how to be all of that, and to balance it all.
Okay.
So, but it was a struggle at first.
And I know, because not only are you caring for other, loved one who is passed over, I've also seen that you have serviced your family members as well. How is that? How do you turn it on and off? Because now it goes from you're caring for others family members of their passing. How do you allow people to care for you at those times?
Well, I'm gonna go back to a recent experience that I had is with my aunt, and I'm sure that her family wouldn't mind me saying. My aunt, Pastor Janie Carnegie, I was given the opportunity, not only the opportunity, but the privilege, and I count it as an honor, and I'm humbled to, take care of her in her transition, her passing. And that moment for me was very difficult because, you go from an aunt that you see up and, doing so well, and then now, she has passed on and you got to care for her. But then my inner me, my heart, the heart of me was more so that, I want to make sure that it's done right.
Right.
I don't want no detail unturned.
Right.
I want every detail to the, to the T. So you shift into the professional mode,
right,
to make sure that everything is done like it should be and it's professionally done. And that's how I was able to get through it. But then, when she was there, it's like, every day I would check on her, make sure everything is good, and when, everything is working out and she's in good hands. But then that final moment when we get to the cemetery and it's time to close out the services and tell the family that, we thank them for entrusting their loved one into our care. And this concludes the services of Miss Janie Carnegie. And that moment is when it hit me the hardest, because then I shift into the mode of, okay, my time is up now. She won't be going back to the funeral home with me, and I won't be able to have that intimate time.
Right.
To touch her and just pet her. Now this is final, and so then is when the grieving part kicks in for me at that time. Sometimes it's difficult when you're caring for your own family member, but it's just being compassionate and being there for the family. You have to kind of put yourself to the side, right, and make sure you stay, what's the word I want to use, that you stay professional, and that you stay caring, compassionate, all of that during that time for them.
So what I got from everything that you said is still at the moment, you still like a nurturer, a boss, even in your times of weakness, that you continue to care for that family. So your job is never not done. You continue your same professionalism, you continue your same work ethic, even when you're hurting yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And you deal with your pain after the fact. So in doing that, being that you're a nurturer and different things like that, how do you apply that same to your motherhood as well? Like,
to my motherhood, oh God, how do I apply that? How can I explain that? I guess I would say, and don't criticize me for saying this, but I would say when it comes to being the mother at home, it's like I kick into, I'm tired in a sense, I'm drained.
yeah.
So whatever is whatever, but then I'm at home, I'm still the My husband is more kind of laid back. You know, I'm more the aggressor, you know, to make sure that I'm demanding of our kids. And, you know, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. My husband kind of laid back in a sense. So at home, I'm really not the compassionate one.
Okay.
I'm the more the rule. You know, I'm setting the rule. This is how it is.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you kind of like feel what I mean, and I mean what I say type person. So in that, we see like today we've experienced so much, you know, difficult times with black men, and being that you have 2 black sons, like how do you teach them to, you know, conduct themselves when police comes? I know that you have an anti-bullying organization. How do you teach them to protect themselves in different situations?
Well, my thing to young black men are to make sure you govern yourself accordingly. You know, with, you know, everything that's going on in the world today, with the George Floyd situation, my heart goes out to his family as well. You know, all Black Lives Matter, you know, me, all lives matter. My thing to that, you know, with young black men, again, is to, I have this thing about, I cannot understand why our black men wear their pants below their butt. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I always encourage my boys to make sure you keep your pants up. I used to tell my, he turned 18 on June the 23rd. I used to tell my baby son, you know, put a belt on, you know. Peer pressure is out there, you know, to misguide them in other directions. But, you know, still being a force behind making sure you govern yourself accordingly. My 17-year-old, you know, he was engaged in some things that happened. You know, and we still battling that, you know, but in that, you know, I'm still grateful that, you know, it's going to give him another opportunity to look at life differently, you know, and refocus himself, gain focus. So to our black men, I would just say to listen to your parents, you know, and we have to lead by example, you know. And today we don't have a whole lot of that, you know. I do know that, you know, it's a lot of lacking in that area, but we have to learn to lead by example. And with, you know, with life it comes struggles, and we have to learn, you know, we can make mistakes. We're human, we're gonna always make mistakes, but it's the way you get back up and you just continue to try. And I know not only are black men at jeopardy, black women as well. You know, the Breonna Taylor case, just innocent people being killed. What would you say to young children, young, you know, inspiring entrepreneurs, inspiring models, what have you? What would you say to them to encourage them, to motivate them to stay on a narrow path to, you know, to greatness? What would you tell them? Don't give up. And I would say that because me, you know, I was 3 months pregnant when I graduated high school. I have a 30-year-old son, and he went into the military. He retired, you know, on medical. But I was also in that path of deciding which way I want to go in life. You know, I was led in a different direction. I had a whole different type of atmosphere that I used to hang around. That was, you know, I dealt with some of the hood, you know, I would say. But in that, when I was dealing with some of the hood and I was looking and trying to reposition myself of what I wanted to do in life, I started to begin to think, you know, in engaging myself in the hood with some of, I was like, do I want to live like this? And I started looking at, you know, it's not an end to this. So in my engagement and dealing with some of the lifestyle of what I was involved in, of, you know, I was involved with someone that ended up going to federal prison. I was like, you know, the disconnection of, you know, now, you know, this has happened, you know, it's disconnecting yourself, and then where do you go? Is this the life pattern that you want? And I began to, in my thoughts, like, nah, you know, I gotta change my direction. How can I change my direction. Okay, yes, I'm in mortuary school at the time. I just got to keep myself focused. So I began to reposition myself, keep myself focused, knowing that I needed education. I always used to tell my nieces, and I still do encourage them, that, you know, to the women, that you know, it's great to be involved with you know, a significant other. You know, it's great, you know, if they can bring something to the table. But all my thoughts were always, if you're involved in whoever you decide to be involved with, being a young black woman, that if they decide to walk away today or tomorrow, that you can still stand. Don't allow them to make you fall to where you can't pick yourself back up. Being able to still stand in the midst of, you know, if they walk away.
Right.
You know, so I'm really big on that. Trying to encourage our young women, to give them hope, to let them know that it's another way that you can go, you know, to be successful, you know, be your own, you know, boss, whether it's in nursing school, whether it's in the corporate world, you know, whether it's doing something, you know, the mortuary schooling, in the funeral industry, whatever it is, that you can engage yourself in something positive, move forward, and do well for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in all that, like, what would you tell the Daphina that was struggling and, you know, going through hard times? What would you tell her, like, right now? What would you tell her?
What I would tell her right now is that in the struggle, she thought that she had me, but she did not. That your situation does not determine your destiny at all. That if I would have looked on my life then and where I am now, that the grace of God as well is that what has kept me moving forward, and then trusting Him in every direction that I am going. And so when I look back at her, I still say that I'm grateful for her, because she is the one that helped taught me to keep going and to never give up. You know, my kids, they were another inspiration that kept me going in life, and, you know, don't give up, and, you know, knowing that they need me as well. So it was important on what type of life that I was going to give them and leave for them as well.
And one thing that, like, I heard you talk about, you know, being, you know, young and having children and stuff. And I know that's common now. And I know that some people feel like giving up once they do that. But that is not like a life sentence. That is nothing to, you know, hide up under a rock pile. Sometimes you have to face everything head on. You have to deal with it, and you have to grow from it. Because, you know, I feel like sometimes you do things and you experience things, but that's not your end result, because God has a purpose for your life. And a lot of times people they don't want to believe that. So I want you to kind of tell everybody, like, ways, give them any inspirational words that you have in your heart right now.
Well, me being 3 months pregnant when I graduated from high school again, I tried the data entry program. And I was like, this is not for me. So I was still determined. So I was like involved in the lifestyle I was in at the time, and I was like, oh, none of this is for me. So I was still trying to find my way positively. You know, I didn't want to rely on the system as well, you know, to take care of me. You know, what can I do? You know, I have a son that I need to take care of. You know, at the time I just had the one. You know, God, I need some answers. So one evening I went home and I told my dad, I said, I want to go to mortuary school. And it was late night, actually. It was real late. I had been out. And I come home and I tell him this, and he says, mortuary school. And I was like, yes. And my mama sat up in the bed. And he said, okay, where? And I said, in Atlanta. And he was like, okay, when does it start? I only had like 2 months to get myself together, move up there, try to find me a place and all of that stuff. So my dad done made that happen for me. They believe that I can do it, you know. So it's that my parents gave me the tools that you know, my mom liked to use the term that it's the tools in the shed. Okay, when we're raising our kids, we constantly putting tools in the shed. So when they get older, you know, and, you know, try to find their way, they start to gather the the tools out the shed so that they can be successful. So, you know, I want to commend my parents for giving me the tools, but it's up to me. It was totally up to me to take the tools out the shed and make them work for my life. So I began to take the tools out the shed and make them work for my life. You know, and I try to instill that in young girls that I'm involved with, and I'm hoping that, you know, the tools that I give them along with their parents, that they're able, when they graduate from school and start to find their way, you know, even before graduating, that they can start taking the tools out the shed and make them work for their life.
Okay. Well, I totally agree. And have you ever had like a regular job, or this was your first job?
I remember I was 16 years old, working at McDonald's, and cashier. They had I did cashier, and then I was on fries. So I was like, you know, the grease, you know, constantly like, I'm like, God darn, I don't know if I could do this, you know. So the answer to your question is yes, and I did CNA, you know, because at one point I was going to go to nursing school. So I was like, oh, you know, doing the CNA, I was like, you know, there's something for everybody. But my downfall is I couldn't stand to see people suffer. So that's my weakness. So with that being said, I'm like, okay, I can't stand to see people suffer. I don't want to be cashier. I don't want to do none of that, you know. But I knew that I had deep down inside that I knew that I wanted to know what went on after a person has passed away. So then I began to get involved again in mortuary school and start to my path, my journey. So I've again been doing this 25 years.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time. And so I know you've seen the ins and the outs, and you have, you know, all the experience. And I know that you've been involved with a lot of things in your community. Can you name some of those things that you've been involved with?
Yes, so many things in the community. I try to, when someone calls and they need me to do something in the community, I try to adhere to that if I can. But one of the things that I'm involved with in the community is now is Don't Take My Life, Let Me Live. It's a movement that started in Miami with the local funeral home there, Wright and Young Funeral Home in Miami under Terry Wright. And what that movement is Don't Take My Life, Let Me Live. It's pretty much from gun violence to any type of crime to you know, even, you know, making sure you practice safe sex. There's a lot of things that we can get involved in that can take your life. So with that being said, we want to put you on notice or serve you notice of those things that, you know, you need to be aware of. You know, don't take my life, let me live. And in my thoughts, and no offense to anyone, but I began to read some of the shirts that it has circled our nation, you know, with the George Floyd, I can't breathe, you know, take your foot off my neck. I hear that term and I'm thinking on I cannot breathe, you know. That term can be used even in the living, you know, when people are, you know, criticizing, you know, one another, you know, trying to keep somebody down, you know, that's a form of I cannot breathe. You know, can you please take your foot off my neck because I'm trying to go somewhere. I want to be successful. Can you please keep your foot off my neck? And that's to all of us in the black community and the white community. When somebody our young people, they trying to go somewhere, help encourage them, pick them up and pull them up where you are and help encourage them and lead the way. Because again, that's a form of I cannot breathe. Keep your foot off of my neck when they down. Pick them up. You know, don't just keep your foot on their neck and saying, okay, you ain't gonna mount to nothing. She just a nobody in the community. She got this here going on. Well, then she might have that going on, or he might have that going on. But how can you help them? You know, how can you help them to give them hope? You know, we need to learn to give our community, our kids, our people, give them some hope and keep your foot off their neck, and so they can breathe. And that's how I look at, you know, what's going on in the world today. So.
Well, thank you for watching. My name is Jessica, and this is SnapOne Media with the lovely
Daphina Williams.
Thank you.